Okay, guys, so I'm back, and I've just seen Apocalypse for the second time, and it was still a pretty good film. Still some things that are not good, some things I had to complain about, but otherwise it's a pretty good film. But this is going to be the spoiler review, so bear that in mind. If you haven't seen the film already, well, why not? And really, in this case, you need to just get up and leave right now, and I have a spoiler-free review available for those of you who want to see that. But if you have seen the movie already, or you just don't give a shit about spoilers, well, sit back, relax, and we'll get right to it in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. After the title, there's a cage match going on, and as it turns out, there's a fight between Angel and soon-to-be Nightcrawler in there, the new Nightcrawler. Now, what I liked about this Nightcrawler is, well, it's been 13 years since we've seen Nightcrawler. The last time he was in X-Men 2, X-Men United, and he had that really kick-ass scene where he beat up everyone in the White House. And while he didn't do anything like that in this movie, he was still a pretty cool dude. Angel, on the other hand, they pretty severely underutilize him again in this movie. I mean, he has more lines and he's in a few more scenes, but other than that, other than being a horseman, that's really it. And he died at the end. Like I said, this is a spoiler review, so there you go. One thing I forgot to mention is that before that, we're actually in Ohio, and there's a scene where we're introduced to Cyclops, or rather Scott Summers, and his eyes are hurting and he's in the middle of class. And when he gets ready to get beat up by a bully, he just lets his powers loose accidentally and blows a hole in the wall. I definitely like Ty Sheridan as Cyclops in this movie, or a younger Cyclops, and it's pretty cool to see his dynamic with his brother, Alex Summers, or Havoc, who's been missing in action for like a couple years now, as far as movies go. Now we cut to Magneto, who's actually living a pretty decent life, and he's just in Poland somewhere, working as a factory worker, and he's under an assumed name of Henrik, and he's actually got a family now. He's actually got a wife and a child who actually knows about his past. At that point, you have to ask, okay, he told her straight up that he's Magneto, and she was okay with that. That did raise a little bit of an eyebrow to me, because anyone who saw the news probably can recognize his face and knows what he's capable of and what he did, but still had a child with him, so I guess he changed his ways. And really he did, because he looks like he's just a regular person. And nothing bad has happened. Everything's just okay, and he's moved beyond being Magneto from Days of Future Past, and that's it. Really, no one went after him all this time. He just disappeared, and that was it. And then we see Jean Grey, played by Sophie Turner, for the first time. And I definitely love Sophie Turner as Jean Grey in this, and you'll see why later on. So after the plot jumps from place to place in the first several minutes, Apocalypse is brought back to life, and then we see Storm, who's played by Alexandra Shipp, and she has a run-in with him where she almost gets her hand cut off for stealing, and it's nice to see she has her accent on through most of the movie. But again, they underutilize some of these characters, Storm, a lot in this movie. I mean, she is one of his horsemen. She doesn't really do a whole lot in this film, but it's a bit of an improvement over Halle Berry's Storm. Well, not by that much, considering she had more of a role in other movies. So the film jumps from plot point to plot point and does it pretty spectacularly. But when Apocalypse is brought back to life, there's an accident at the factory in Poland, and a guy almost gets crushed by this huge metal thing, and Magneto uses his powers to save him. But as it turns out, he gets caught, and someone sees it. And he realizes he's been exposed, and he tries to get away, but he realizes his child has gone missing, and as it turns out, the police have taken watch of her. And they want him to explain himself. Okay, here's where things go wrong, because he actually willingly goes with the police. Like, he just doesn't put up a fight, he just admits who he is, tells them, takes me in. And this is where his daughter, who has some kind of mutant powers to summon animals, and these birds just attack all the police, and then one of the policemen gets distracted with a bow, and he fires. Oh my god. Oh no. No, not the kid. Not the kid, no. Yep. The policeman accidentally kills the kid, but not just the kid, the mother too. So both his wife and child are now dead. And he runs up to him, he's cradling him and crying, and even the police are shocked because it wasn't intentional. And at this point, you can't help but feel bad for him. Jesus Christ, look at him. He's actually been trying to do a good job over the past 10 years, only fall flat, have his family killed. It just is very heartbreaking. And then when he lets the necklace loose and kills all the policemen quickly with it, it's kind of a relief. And then he just cries out to the heavens. It's basically saying, you know what, I can't do good, so I may as well just do evil because that's what I'm good at. So let me be evil. Really, he's like one of the most sympathetic characters in this film. And that's pretty much why Apocalypse recruits him, because he's using his anger, amplifying it. That's when he destroys Auschwitz at one point in the movies. Meanwhile, Mystique decides she wants to go back to Xavier Institute to try and talk about Eric, who she knows is in trouble. And that's when they go to Cerebro, and he tries to look up where Eric is, and he tries to talk to him and sympathize with him, but Eric simply isn't having it. He realized, you know what? I've had enough of this shit. They took everything from me, so I'm going to take everything from them. Again. So I'm going to be with Apocalypse. But at this point, Charles realizes that he's not alone, and then Apocalypse gets into his head, takes control of Cerebro, and basically takes control of everyone he's connected to the point where he launches missiles in the air. And at this point I'm thinking, oh shit, is he going to nuke the entire planet? He's really not going to nuke the entire planet like Terminator, is he? Well, no, he doesn't. He just launches all their missiles into space where no one can use them. So now the entire world during the Cold War is without nuclear weapons. And Xavier's just sitting there with this blank, black-eyed stare like, and he can't get out of it. So he has Havoc destroy Cerebro and everything, and that pretty much breaks him free, but Charles is wasted. He's tired. And then Apocalypse shows up at the X-Mansion and kidnaps Xavier. And then Havoc tries to stop him, but blows up the X-Jet. Well, right here, this is probably my favorite scene in the movie. Well, one of them. Well, Quicksilver was reintroduced in an earlier scene, but this is when my favorite scene comes in. I don't think it can be said enough that Quicksilver is the most awesome character in this entire trilogy. Because this time, the scene from Days of Future Past when he slow-mo saves Charles, Eric, and Wolverine from getting shot up, I thought that couldn't be topped. I was so glad I was wrong. Because when he shows up, you see everything just going in slow motion. I figured, wait a minute, is this the Quicksilver rescue scene they're talking about? And then he shows up, and then Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics are playing, and it's fucking hilarious. And I'm sitting there like, yes, please show me what this is about. And he just runs through the entire mansion and saves everyone. He gets all of them out. And he does some funny shit along the way. At one point, he's actually like doing the moonwalk because he has time to, and he manages to save everyone from getting blown up. Almost everyone. Apparently Havoc was too close to the blast, and he's dead now. At this point, I have to ask myself, how fast is Quicksilver moving exactly? Because the speed at which an explosion should take place, and he did that in maybe like 1 second flat, rescuing everybody, that's pretty much moving at speeds alongside with the Flash. And it's still a pretty cool scene, and it will never not be awesome, but that's an incredibly fast thing, and it's very welcome. So, Bryan Singer and Evan Peters, I love them for that. Another one of my favorite scenes happens to be a nod to X2 X-Men United, where Stryker comes back, kidnaps Mystique, Mariah McTaggart, Quicksilver, and Beast, and takes them to Alkali Lake. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh shit, another nod to the original trilogy that's no longer canon now. Jean, Scott, and Nightcrawler go to Alkali Lake to try and rescue everybody. And then you get my favorite cameo. You have Wolverine, and it's only a couple seconds before it happens when I noticed it was Wolverine, but then he comes out, and he comes out in his Weapon X gear with the helmet, and then he just goes to waste on all the troopers, and then he kills them, and it's pretty gory. I'm thinking, okay, this is pretty much a setup for his next Wolverine movie, which is supposed to be the last one with Hugh Jackman in it. An interesting thing about it is he doesn't have a single line of dialogue in the 3 or 4 minutes he's in this movie. He's just grunting, growling, and just stabbing the shit out of everyone, and it's fucking awesome. Well, then there's a little problem I have with this, because at the end of Days of Future Past, it turns out Mystique was disguised as Stryker, and she had him, but now actual Stryker has him. So you have to wonder, in the last 10 years, what happened? I'm guessing my theory is that Mystique was going to use him, but the real Stryker found out about it, and she bailed, and real Stryker took over, or something along those lines. It's never actually explained, but I'm guessing that's what happened, and I would prefer it if it were explained, because that's a big inconsistency. But anyway, the movie's not really about him. I think my favorite nod to Wolverine is the fact that Scott says, well, I guess that's the last we'll be seeing of him. You're so funny because they have such an antagonistic relationship in the first 3 movies. And he's the most popular X-Men ever. No kidding, he's literally in every single one of these movies, even for a little bit. So, through a whole bunch of nonsense, we're set up for the final battle, and Apocalypse just completely lays waste to Cairo, Egypt. Like, he builds this entire huge futuristic pyramid with him and his 4 horsemen statues. Pretty much everyone in Cairo is dead. And Magneto had a huge hand in that, because he now can control the magnetic field of the planet and is laying waste to everything. So the final battle takes place, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of fighting, and it's all pretty cool, a little bit jumbled mess, but very entertaining. I see how Professor X gets his bold look now, because Apocalypse was trying to transfer his soul essence to Xavier's body and almost worked, but then his hair fell out and Nightcrawler saved him just in the nick of time. And this is starting to lead up to one of my favorite parts of the movie. When Charles and Apocalypse are having this little mental battle in their minds, and he's actually physically fighting him, but Apocalypse is just growing inside, and he just overpowers the shit out of him and just swings him around like a rag doll in his own mansion. Okay, how can they possibly beat him? What are they doing? They're not doing much damage. He's just holding them off, all of them. And then Charles Xavier says, Jane, help me. And then at one point she walks out of the Cerebro doors and like, wait a minute, is she going to do what I think she's going to do? Is she really going to be what I think she's going to be? And sure enough, it happens. She actually starts walking on air right above Apocalypse. And she just lets loose, and then she turns into the Phoenix. Oh my god, yes! That is fucking awesome! For her to actually be the Phoenix or show it in this movie as opposed to in X-Men The Last Stand where it was kind of hinted at. This was probably my favorite scene in the entire movie as a whole, between this one and Quicksilver. It was just so awesome, and she just let loose, and she completely lays waste to Apocalypse. And everyone else just combines their attacks, impales him, and that's pretty much the end of him. Even if it was only just 1 minute of her being the Phoenix, it was a huge yes moment, and I was so excited for it. So, Sophie Turner, props. I give my props to her for that. I'm still not really that big of a fan of Apocalypse being a one-and-done villain in this movie, because he's suffering from the same thing that Marvel Cinematic Universe movies are suffering from. I really don't know where else they're going to go with the trilogy now. So, at the end of the movie, Psylocke escapes. Everyone's back at the X-Mansion. Quicksilver's got his leg broken, but he's healing up. And he doesn't tell Magneto he's his father. And the strange thing is, Eric and Charles are parting ways, but on a much happier note. Almost like they're just going out for drinks or whatever. Okay, so guys, let me ask you. Have you seen it now? What's your favorite scene in the movie? Who's your favorite X-Men? Whatever you think, leave me a comment below and tell me how you feel. Also, don't forget to check out my Twitter at AsteroidMike. Don't forget to check out my blog. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. Click on the link below or on the next slide. And as always, I will see you around.